What's up, Footer Nation? Gary Hootenholla here, and welcome to another episode of the NYBS Radio Show right here from the great state of New York. With me tonight, I am super stoked because we have Molly, Queen Molly the Skeptic from Western New York Bigfoot Research Organization. And as always, my brother from another mother, my boy, Kenney, the cryptopunkologist, the #1 bestseller in his genre on Amazon Prime for a couple weeks. Amazing. So tonight we bring the heat, game on, season finale, and then we disappear for a little bit as we go back into the woods and do the work. But we had to give Molly a special introduction. We're all going to disappear for a second. Let's do this, Footer Nation.
Okay.
Deuces.
Nah. I love it.
Yeah.
I just have
That's you.
Hey, Gary, I have one question before we start. I honestly, whenever I see Kenney, I honestly want him to hold up a newspaper with a date on it so that we know he's alive and he's not being held captive in some cave somewhere by Afghan rebels. I'm worried about you.
I'm certainly not.
Can you not afford electricity, or do you live in a cave? I don't.
I've been told that I look the best in the dark.
Right. It's almost like you have a face for radio.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
very much so. Very much so.
All right. I just wanted to clarify that you're okay, and we don't need to collect money and do a crowd fund for a ransom to get you out of the Afghan rebels' hands.
No. Please collect
you're
money
good.
though for me. Please collect money for me.
We'll crowd fund for you, but we'll have to come up with something else.
Well, usually in the background, I've got like the stars and everything going.
yeah.
Tonight, I just went with glare from the TV hitting the wall behind me.
Oh yeah, that's great lighting. Hollywood should copy your lighting. I mean, we should film movies like this. Okay.
That's
There's a plan here.
I'm sorry, Gary. I just had a question. Continue on.
Usually he's starstruck. You know what I mean? He has the nice disco fever going. So
oh, right.
He does.
I just have the bamboo beaded bookshelf behind me.
I mean, you got to have a background. I got hiking signs behind me. So, so it is what it is. Someday I have Bigfoot ones. Someday I have hiking ones. It just depends on the day.
You swap those out?
I swap them. You got it.
Is it the same wall? So it's not like you. Oh, so some days you're like, I don't want those. I want these.
Just want these today. I want this one, and that one.
Interesting.
So. Okay. And as always, for my buddy Joe, who's watching, your husband, Western New York Bigfoot Research Organization.
Thanks for the plug.
Make sure to like them. Okay.
That's a nice cup.
Yeah, I mean, he gave me this one for free because he's like, well, Gary, we're friends. And now he's like, you gotta buy one of my new mugs. And I'm like, what is this? What are you? Okay, you're being an entrepreneur right now. I go, so when we go on it's okay. So I said, though, when we go on our camping expedition to go look for Bigfoot, I said to him today in the group chat, I'm like, you're going to be the only one with a table out that has all your merchandise on.
He's going to be vending.
He's going to be vending at the expedition while we're out there looking for Bigfoot. He's going to have a big foam finger. You go, everything must go.
Plugged into his phone. He's like, it's okay if you don't have cash.
Exactly. Everything must go. Liquidation.
He's going to have one of those.
Me. That's me because I keep telling him, like, dude, you need to make some money because you're spending my money faster than God knows. We just got in the mail an axe that folds into itself, or it's a saw, a hacksaw that folds into a container that's really small. And I'm like, you got to stop buying with the camping equipment. You got to go make some money on this.
It's an obsession. It's an obsession. It happens once you start buying. I mean, my Facebook feed every day, and I talk about it. I look at one thing, and I'm a master of hobbies. I collect hobbies. So every day I'm like, oh, look at fishing stuff. Oh, look at rollerblades. Oh, look at run. So I get it. I totally get it. All right, Footer Nation, let's get right into this. So what's really cool about the show, other than we have Queen Molly on here and my boy Kenney, is that now we get a guest on here that is a skeptic, and she once again, her husband does the Bigfoot stuff, and he's kind of really involved in it. My buddy Joe and her husband, and so this is a rarity because now we get to look at the perspective of a significant other, in the field of Bigfoot research that we normally don't see. Normally, when you watch our shows, we have people on that, either had sighting reports, or they tell you their encounter stories, or they believe in Dr. Was it Meldrum?
Melgrew.
Okay, Melgrew's footprint stuff, and dermal ridging is what we hear about, and those kind of things. But or the Patterson-Gimlin film, which I totally debate about all day long, and I'm one of the few people that look at that differently. But
there's a flappy thing there that it looks like a suit. I'm sorry.
I get yelled at all the time about my own personal thoughts on it, and
okay.
I guess that's just what it is. So, but now we have someone that comes from a different side. So, tell us about how is it being a significant other in the Bigfoot community? Because now you see it all now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm in. I still don't. I'll see things all the time. He'll show me look at this, and a prime example is he'll go out in the woods and he'll say, "Oh, I think I came back and I looked at this video and I think I see something over there," and then I'll watch it and I'll go, "That's a tree." And he's really into it, and I really love that I love that he has something that he's so passionate about. I love that he is something that he's really into, because we all want to see our significant others happy. I will say that there are times we'll get in the car, and the moment we get in the car and shut the doors, that there's talking constantly about Bigfoot. Now, fortunately, we have been married for quite some time. So while we're in the car and he's talking about Bigfoot, I'm like, I'm on my phone. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know how to time perfectly the oh, yes now. Or to stop and ask a question. And then when he answers the question, go, and then back. And I feel like as long as he gets that going, he doesn't get mad at me when he totally sees me on the phone. We have this agreement. I'm just going to sit here and talk about Bigfoot. And we have the agreement that I'm going to sit here and be on my phone and do, okay, every once in a while. All right. Right. Do one of these, I'm engaging with you, but really I'm just not. And it's an agreement. I feel like, and it's an unspoken agreement. Let me just say that we've never physically come out with a contract to Dina. It's hey, you're going to talk about this, but I'm going to be my phone. So just know I'm not listening to you. It's an agreement that we have. And because he gets to talk and have a sounding board, and granted, I'm a very low interacting sounding board, but there are times he'll say something and I'm half listening and I'll stop and go, wait a second, you can't, and then we'll start to kind of debate back and forth. But that part of it. So there's times though when I'm like, let's go on vacation. And he's like, where should we go? And do you think they have Bigfoot? And we should probably do camping. And I'm like, well, I kind of thinking of going to the beach. Right. So there's that. So I think that people who are obsessed, and my husband, I love him, is obsessed with Bigfoot. I think that there needs to be a delineation where you have to let it go. And he does do that. So when we go places, it isn't always Bigfoot, but when it is, there are times that I'm like, I can't enough with a Bigfoot. And I don't know if you guys find that in your, wait, Gary, is your fiance, girlfriend, it's fiance, right? Fiance?
No.
Yeah. Or did I marry you already?
Yes. You're crazy.
Is it girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. Is she into Bigfoot like you are?
No.
Is she like me, where it's like, oh, you're nuts?
No.
Okay. So do you find like does she get sick of you talking about it, or are you able to disengage once in a while?
Well, no, I mean, it's hard. You got to disengage, and I get wrapped
have
up in
to.
the same, and it's hard, and I get wrapped up in the same things that, Joe gets wrapped up in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the fact of you're trying to do Bigfoot research, and it gets on your brain, and then you obsess with it, and then it kind of snowballs. And then, your people are messaging you and those kind of things. And
That's the other thing. Yeah. The messaging is, there's a lot of people who message him to ask questions. And I think you guys need to just make sure you have a life outside of Bigfoot. That's all. And
no,
sometimes
you're 100%
it's hard.
correct. No, and that's the thing is, and I mean, Kenney, can you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I without a doubt, I mean, that's the thing. For him, it's kind of like his passion, or I don't want to say kind of like, it is his passion.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of what drives him. And so, which I think, with like for me and like my wife, like I love legend and lore. It really, really drives me. And I think in a way it also keeps me occupied and keeps me busy. So I'm not actually bugging my wife as much. I'm going to her, about certain things, but other than that, I'm also at the same time, I'm focused on something. So, and it's like, the more we talk about this, the more I start to. So how long have you guys been together?
Married 17, together 19.
Okay. Was Joe always hardcore Bigfoot right from the beginning?
No. I mean, he's always been into it, right? But I think, right? So we all joined Facebook somewhere around 2008 to 2010, right?
Yeah.
And then we started figuring out what Facebook was, and then I've worked in IT, so I've known about the internet like since like the 90s, right? But most people who are non-IT kind of got into it with Facebook. I mean, we kind of surfed the web beforehand, but then really got into this whole social media thing. I would say that's around 2008, 2010. And from there, he sort of evolved. And I don't think he really got into Facebook, I would say, until like when we lived in Virginia. It was probably like 2014. And that's when he kind of plugged into that aspect, and it took it up a notch. So before that, he was into Bigfoot, and we'd go camping and he'd talk about it. But social media has kind of brought it up a level, and that's fine. I'm like fine with that. I think it's great. I think it's great that he has people to talk to, and I think it's great that he has an outlet in that regard. And we all have that. So, I have an interest of my own that I will go and search, and it's controversial, so I'm not saying it. So I don't want to, because I just don't want to start there. But so we all have our interests, and it's great to have that. It's just we all have to recognize happy mediums along the way.
Well, yeah, it's like anything in life. I mean, you have to manage it, especially when you've got other people in your life. But what I think happens is I think you guys probably help balance him out, especially with the fact that you're not gung ho. In his passion, you support him in his passion, and you listen. And it's funny because I know some couples where one spouse is very much into a certain subject, and it's because of that, it's actually made the other one kind of become more skeptic, because they just hear so many things that when somebody's really, really into something, they'll, like, I know certain people will say certain things, and just it'll really just kind of push people to kind of become a skeptic sometimes, when people, I don't want to say overzealous, but it's when the passion maybe isn't managed, I guess. Like we said before, when you said a happy medium, it's like anything else. It does have to be managed. But, but at the same time, it's just, to see somebody that has their passion is just awesome.
You have to throw Joseph's comment up right now. You have to throw Joseph. I'm right here, guys.
There you go,
And I have
Joe.
to tell you that I
There's
can
your
hear
fame.
him. I can hear him once in a while from his man cave go, "Rah, rah, rah." I can't exactly hear what he's saying, but I hear him mutter something. And I'm like, oh, he didn't like something we just said. All right.
No, it is true. I mean, this is important to talk about because it is true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, in significant others and couples, you know, you either come in the woods with us or you don't. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's kind of where it is. Now, as you've been getting out into the woods now, because now that you've been getting out there, you're going on these little road trips and things like that. What, as a person on the outside of the Bigfoot community, because you're still not, as I like to say, you're still not tainted or jaded by the thoughts of a lot of things that a lot of us researchers now, and I'll pick on myself because I have no problem picking on myself, that I have to unlearn a lot of things because the things that I learned so far ago, now I look at it like they're complete BS, and because I'm looking at things a lot differently now. So when we start having to unlearn our brains, like now we have someone like you that's very fresh and new to the situation. What do you notice about Bigfoot researchers when they're out in the field as a skeptic?
Oh, when they're out in the field. So here, I'm going to say this because my only experience about out in the fields was Joseph.
Yeah,
but when you and Joseph go do your camping expedition, I'm coming. I'm coming because I don't want you to walk away with like, oh my God, we've seen all this shit. And I'll be like, hi, what do we see? Like,
no, that's good.
I feel like I want to be there. I will tell you that what do I think about all of you? I don't think you're crazy. I mean, I know you want me to say I think you're all crazy. I don't think you're crazy. And when I tell Joseph, because Joseph will say to me, do you think I'm a liar? And I'm like, of course not. And he says, so do you think I'm lying when I tell you I saw Bigfoot? And I say, no, I don't think you're lying because I really think that you think you saw Bigfoot. I think you saw Bigfoot. I don't think you saw Bigfoot, but I think you saw Bigfoot. I know that's like a play on words, but I do believe he thinks he's seen something. Now, when he and I go out, and just for recent example, when we went to, I'm supposed to call them Site A and Site B. I'm not supposed to say the names because then people will infiltrate and
100%.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to say where we went. We went to Site C, maybe it was Site C. I don't even know what it's called. I don't know the code names. I have not been given the decoder ring. But we went to Site C. We did walk around, and it was near a body of water, and it was very like squash, squash, squash because it had been raining. And we were walking along this trail, and all of a sudden there was. And if you look at his intro to the Molly and Joe show, that you can see I'm wearing an LL Bean like duck boot, and I put my foot next to a print, and I looked at it and I was like, listen, I'm no footprint expert, and I can't even really say I've seen a barefoot in the mud, but that right there, I wear a 9.5, 10. And I'm looking at that footprint, and I don't think a bear could. I think a bear and I probably have a similar size foot length, right? And that right there, and you can see where he's measured it. I'm like, I don't have any explanation for that. I don't have any explanation for that. But in my brain, I feel like there's one scientific explanation that's out there that I'm not aware of. So I acknowledge that there are things that I don't know, and I acknowledge that because of that, I can't disprove you because I don't have that scientific knowledge. But I'm not all in. And if you ask me, well, what will it take? It may be a body. It may be a body or me physically seeing.
Well, Molly, let me ask you this question. Do you, when you go out, do you want to go out to disprove, or do you want to go out to know?
No, I'm actually open-minded in that regard. Like I look at that and I say, and we'll look at tree structures, and I'll sit there and I'll say, yeah, I don't know how that branch got in the crux of that branch. And I'll try and look at trees nearby to see if it like flew over. And sometimes I'll just look at them and go, I don't know. Like I I don't know how that got there.
Yeah.
I have zero idea. I can't explain it.
Yeah, and there's always
Does it
those
prove
weird
to me
things.
there's Bigfoot? No, but it
No.
proves to me something weird has happened here.
You know, and that's the thing. I'll be honest with you, Molly. That's the thing for me that makes me love this subject is I love mystery and not being able to figure something out, and like the wonder of it. Like for me, it's not even so much like I've always said that you know, I don't want to believe in Bigfoot. I just want to know. But at the same time, the mystery behind it is just intriguing and it's fun. And it takes me back to, you know, when I was younger, and you know, the thought of like monsters, you know, being real. So, you know, for me, it's like that's one of the things that really kind of drives me, you know, to keep doing what I'm doing, the mystery of it. And again, I mean, when you push aside the whole, you know, finding Bigfoot, you push everything aside, you know, that people criticize, you just look at like the mystery behind it, and going out in the woods, hearing things, you know, things happening that you can't explain. And you can be out there with the smartest people in the world that can tell you everything about the woods, but yet you can't come up with answers. It's exciting. And to be honest with you, that's really where I'm at. And, you know, and that's one of the reasons when we go out that I like going out, because I don't know what I'm going to see. You never know what's going to happen. And that's really exciting. And so it doesn't necessarily even have to be, let's say, Bigfoot related. Just going out, doing the Bigfoot investigation is exciting in itself, because there's so many different things that you can encounter, not necessarily saying anything having to do with anything Bigfoot related.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's the mystery. I mean, and honestly, like Kenney and I always say, and as a Bigfoot researcher myself, and I'm a self-proclaimed Bigfoot researcher, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's okay to say, I don't know, and leave it there. Like, I think the problem is with a lot of people in the community is that you want to have an answer. You always want to have an answer, no matter what. If it's, you know, a bear print, pareidolia, you know, on and on. Maybe that tree got there because we have had a couple hurricanes come through here. And a lot of weird stuff happens that, you know, may not happen normally, but now trees are displaced in certain ways. There's things that we don't think about. But if things that look super weird, we can just stop and say, guess what? I don't know. And just leave it at that. You know, it doesn't always have to be Bigfoot, you know?
Yeah. And so I'm looking at Mike's thing. Do you want to see a Sasquatch? Absolutely. I absolutely do. I, Gary, will look at their penis. I want to know how big their penis is. Gary, did you look at your Sasquatch's penis?
So Loretta has a question.
That means yes.
No, but you know, Kenny, you know he did. You know, that was the first thing he did. He was like, I wonder if the foot matches this. Oh, it does. Very impressive. So, anyways, yes, I do, Mike. I do. I actually would love to. And I don't walk into the woods being like, they don't exist. I go, hey, let's do this. Let's do this thing. Let's look at this stuff. So, all right, question from Molly. What's your opinion about the rock to Joe's head? I thought you meant like earlier in life when he got brain damaged. You mean, okay, so yeah, I can't. That's another thing where I'm like, I said, well, I keep teasing him. I'm like, maybe a raccoon threw a rock at your head. And he's like, oh, a raccoon threw a rock at my head. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you were near its little den and he picked up a rock and threw it at your head. Maybe something happened where somehow a rock got in a tree and you happened to walk underneath and it fell on your head. I can't explain it other than I can't. I just don't know. I can't explain it. I can't explain how a rock hit my husband in the back of the head. And then you can clearly see when he went to go pick it up in the video that it was, you can see where it hit his head and kind of slid under the snow a little bit. And it's like half covered with snow and at an angle where if if I threw a rock and it hit you in the back of the head and it bounced back down, gravity would take it and kind of slide it under the snow. I mean, you can see how that is. And that to me was what was weird. Like if it had just been a rock sitting here, not that I'm saying Justice is a liar. I'm not saying that. But let's just say he's not my husband and I'm watching this video. And the guy goes, "Oh, I got hit back in the head. And oh, look, there's a rock." And it was just sitting on top of the snow. I'd be like, "Good one, dude. Like, good one." But because if you look at that video carefully again, it's kind of gone under the snow. So like half of it is above the snow and half of it is beneath the snow, like it slid at an angle because it hit something and came back down. Am I making sense at all?
Yeah, sometimes too, when it comes to rocks and different things like that. Some of the things that I've looked at and looked into, and it's nothing that I can confirm 100%, but I just think about, well, how could a rock or a pebble or a stone get up into the air and come from up above? Well, some of the things that I thought about is, you have, animals that build nests and they grab a bunch of, stuff to make nests with, and they bring it up the tree and they're creating a nest. They're carrying it, for whatever. I don't, as far as birds, building nests, they come down, they pick something up and they're flying through the air and that could be potentially something where it comes from. And again, I'm not saying anything that I'm saying is why these things happen, but it's just things like, from a skeptic, because I'm a skeptic in many, many ways, that I'm always trying to think of like, okay, well, what could have actually happened here? How could this have happened? Obviously it was a rock. Rocks don't fall from trees. Well, how would a rock get up there? How would a rock get up in the air? Well, I always try to think of a couple ways of, well, how could they get up in the air? And again, a couple of them, birds like to build nests. They pick stuff up from the ground, flying through the air. Just happen to be the unlucky one who gets hit with the rock that time. Again, not saying that's what happened.
Well, and I've seen this rock. I've held the aforementioned rock in my hand, and I don't think a bird could pick this rock up. First of all, because of it was a perfect skipping stone rock, like that you would throw in a pond. So it was fairly large this way and flat, and I just don't see, and thick. I just don't see a bird like picking up this rock and like taking it to its nest. It just doesn't seem like it would be. I don't know. We have pretty big crows here in New York. I'm always surprised. I've never lived in a place with such big crows. So I guess technically you're right. I mean, I never thought of that option. Now I'm going to think about that option. But I wasn't there, so I couldn't do this, right? I couldn't look up and be like,
right, exactly. In coming up with different reasonings of why something could be, isn't saying you're not saying that Sasquatch doesn't exist. It's again just having conversations and looking at things, from all point of views.
Right.
And the thing is, why that's good is because, again, you can come up with ideas of, okay, no, this couldn't be, or that could potentially be. And it keeps conversations open. It keeps conversations going, because again, the hardest person to have a conversation with is somebody who draws that line in the sand. So if you can come up with different reasons and different ideas of possibly how something could happen, not necessarily saying that this is why it happened. I think that's important, because there's people I've spoken to who, there's something that I hadn't even thought of, and they brought it up. And I'm like, oh, you know what? That makes sense. Gary introduced me to the sound of the Bart owl. I'd never even heard of that owl before, and that it made that sound. Had no clue. Did you say
burp or Bart? What kind of owl? Bart. All right, now I'm going to write that down because I want to. I told you I was going to take notes during this because I'm going to look it up. So Bart owl. Okay.
So
B-A-R-D. Bard.
B-A-R-D. Oh, like Shakespeare. Shakespeare is the bard. I was a English lit major.
you guys are talking about like the only thing I could picture. You ever saw Mighty Python and the Holy Grail from back in the day?
Of course.
You ever saw that? Okay, when he's talking about like the bird carrying the rock, and then they were talking about the birds carrying the coconut.
African swallow.
The African swallow. African swallow
Oh.
can carry. So you're talking about that, and all that's playing in my head is that scene. So sorry. I mean, it's possible though. I mean, anything is possible.
So I think another thing that we were talking about, and I know that maybe we talked to this in the pre-show, and if I'm jumping ahead and you don't want me to start about things that have happened to me.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Are you okay with the segue into that? I don't mean to run your show for you, but I've been thinking about what you said.
Go ahead.
And I really, and I think people like Loretta and Mike have heard about this before. But one of the things that happened to us last summer when we were in site A, B, or C, I think it was A, we went camping, and I loved camp. I'm more of a glamper because I do like the finer things in life. And we had our tent set. We have a yurt, not a tent. We have a yurt. And we had that all set up, and there was the dog, and we were all camping. And we went to bed, and we're in the tent. And all of a sudden we kind of look out the doors, and I'm like, what are those things over there? Because they weren't fireflies. So they weren't that green glow. They were and they were big. If I was to say, and I just made my hands like they were big, like I really feel like they were a lot larger than a firefly, like probably like 4 or 5 times, maybe even more than a firefly's blink. I mean, it was big. And prior to that, Joseph pointed this out to me later. We had heard what we thought was a baby crying. And I was like, is that a baby? Right? And then all of a sudden these things start lighting up outside of our tent. And our dog started to growl in the tent. And I was like, what is that? That's kind of weird. And then the dog growling's freaking me out. Because I mean, listen, I trust that dog more than anything on this planet. So, because that dog has senses that you and I won't even dream of. So, if the dog all of a sudden does this, I'm looking that way too. And I'm like, what's going on? Right. And I'm paying attention to that dog. If my husband says, what's over there? I'd be like, oh, I don't know. What's over there? But if the dog snaps his head, I'm all in on the dog. And the dog started to growl and things started to happen. And then all of a sudden they went away. Or did I shut the tent flap? I can't remember. One of them was like, nothing's happening here. We're going to shut the tent flap and we'll be safe, right? I went to sleep. I woke in that. Okay. Later on that night, I had such a vivid dream. I mean, like vivid. I mean, I legitimately thought that I was awake. Joseph the next morning had to like say, you weren't awake. He talked to me. I'm like, somebody came through our campsite last night. It was a man and a woman, and they walked through our campsite. I heard them coming up through, and they walked through our campsite, and then they walked down to the road. And they were very quiet, but I was so scared that they were in our campsite, and neither you or the dog woke up. And I was like I had like that I was in like hypnopoptic sleep where I couldn't move. And Joseph's like, nobody came through our campsite last night, Molly. But I, to this day, swear to God that somebody came through our campsite, even though they had freshly graded the gravel road that day. And I walked out to that road at the end of our campsite, and there were no footprints and there were nothing. And I had to discount it that there was absolutely nobody there. But I had this really vivid dream, and it really freaked me out. And I said to Joseph, I said, I'm not saying it had anything to do with those crazy ass lights in the woods, but I've never had that kind of experience before in my life. Do I say it has anything to do with both Bigfoot? No, but something really weird happened to me, and I can't explain it. And I don't even know where to start with that. But to me, it made me start thinking about maybe I'm wrong. Maybe something's going on. right? Like there's this small, I don't want you all to get happy. I'm still a skeptic, but there's this part of me that's definitely like there's something else out there going on. I don't know what it is. So it describes my religion as well. Like, what are you? I don't know. I don't care. I have nothing idea. I don't know what's going on, right? So what do you have to say about my experience, Gary and Kenney? What's your theories? Let's hear them.
Go ahead, Kenney. I always talk.
Yeah. I mean, as far as, so, I mean, not being there, really don't have a theory. I'm thinking, if somebody walked through your campsite and it being 2 people, your dog would have acted on that. And, as far as the road, the direction they went in, and it was just graded, you probably would have seen some footprints. You would have seen something. So it very well could have been, you saw the, so when Joe said that, that you were dreaming, did you guys both see the lights?
We both saw the lights.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it very well could have, you guys saw that and then you fell asleep, and you're wondering what it is. And then, dreams are weird.
Dreams are weird.
And that's the thing. I have people, tell me, oh man, I had the strangest dream the other night. And I'm like, so you have normal dreams? Every dream I had is strange, So,
right.
I'm thinking it very well could have been, again, that you were asleep and maybe thought you were awake. And sometimes it's so vivid. I mean, I've had dreams where I've woken up and I'm in my house and I don't understand where I am because it was just like I was just in one place. So I mean, again, it's just a theory. Maybe you did hear.
So you think they're unrelated? You think that my mind was seeing that, and my mind is trying to process the unknown,
yes.
So it does this in this bizarre way. Okay. And by the way, what you're talking about, it's called Ambien, and don't do it. Ambien's bad. I ran into a door jam taking Ambien, and I won't do it again. So go back. So you think it's unrelated. Okay. I mean, it may be my mind trying to process that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so crazy. What is Gary doing? Oh, for God's sake.
I'm not
aliens. Saying it's. No, you don't think it was aliens.
I mean, when we talk about, lights in the woods, and we talk about all this weirdness stuff, let's take Bigfoot out of the phenomena itself, all right?
Okay.
I mean, when we talk about Bigfoot, and this is kind of something that I've been exploring lately, when you hear us talk about Project X and all that noise, is that looking from the Bigfoot phenomenon in a different way, and saying that some of these areas that there may be Bigfoot activity, there may be other stuff in the paranormal realms in the same areas. Not saying they're connected, but saying that these things could be drawn to the same type of energies and same type of earth energies in an area. Now we hear about ley lines, and you start getting into the history of Stonehenge, Easter Island,
right?
Machu Picchu. All these places are actually, it's been scientifically documented, and I'm one of the science nerds, that they're on energy planes. They build these things on energy levels.
They are.
So, okay. So now if we take that and dissect it a little bit, if we look into any kind of paranormal phenomena, crypto phenomena, alien phenomena, they're going to be drawn to the same types of things as us as humans are drawn to these energy areas. Think about it. Like humans are drawn to these. Think about how animals migrate. Okay, we're getting into, this animal behavior. Animals migrate to different areas, all right, because of either the weather, but they also feel magnetic fields. When something changes, climate changes, things like that, they end up either going earlier or later. Okay. So now when we look into what you experience lights in the woods. Okay. We experience lights in the woods a lot of times. Kenney and I had experience, that was last year, right?
Yeah, so, last spring. And I've seen them way before that. So when we talk about those things, we have to look at everything from a very outside perspective, not Bigfoot related. Now it could be Bigfoot related. Maybe Bigfoot is an interdimensional being or some kind of things like that. I don't know what Bigfoot is,
I have my theory, but I don't know. So maybe, just maybe, we could be dealing with something alien. And when I say alien now, I use that term very loosely.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I use it loosely, because all alien can really mean when we talk about it is that it's outside of our understanding, like paranormal. Paranormal is just something that's not natural. Supernatural, you start getting into powers and things like that. These orbs that are in the woods, these energy balls, these energy spheres, once again, they're being seen all over the place.
Right.
We happen, and my theory is why Bigfoot researchers see these things isn't because of Bigfoot. You're a Bigfoot researcher, where do you go? Into the woods, right?
Yeah.
So because you're going into the woods, you could have, you could see that. Rachel and I have seen lights in the woods. We both look at each other like, did you see that? Yeah, sure. Did you see that? We've had those interactions. Does that mean it's Bigfoot? No. But that's what you could, that's just another possibility into what you see. Because like Kenney said, they graded the road, correct? You would see tracks.
I would have seen tracks.
You would have seen tracks.
And I walked in that, and I was like, oh, they would have made tracks. Like exactly. I wasn't, like it didn't rain, so it hardened or anything like that. It was like, oh no, they would have made tracks. They're not there. That was my brain. But I was just, I know that there's a connection between the lights and my craziness. Like, and again, maybe it's just my brain processing. I wanted to go back. Somebody had said something, I thought, about interdimensional psychosis, meaning an energy of the mind set due to your fear process. I need that explained to me because it's a lot of word. Oh, wait, hold on. My man-child has brought my bottle of wine because I'm out of wine. You're not going to make an appearance? I don't need the wine opener. I bought twisties this time. Okay. Thank you, dear. We just saw his arm. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a famous Joseph Snyder's arm.
Joseph!
Oh, he's not wearing pants.
Oh.
Yeah. We don't wear pants around this house.
I mean, his Squatch Talk's coming, so hopefully he puts pants on for that. You know what I mean?
Right. He pushed Squatch Talk to 8 o'clock.
I know. But
I was like, okay. So now I have wine. We're good. All right. So
we have a couple questions. Well, we have a couple.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go to the questions. I mean, so what kind of what Will's saying, interdimensional psychosis, meaning energy of the mind set due to your fear process. That, I mean, what kind of he's saying, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. I love Will. He's another brother of mine. Will's
awesome.
He's awesome. So the problem is when we say you're going to sleep in the woods, right? So you're going backcountry camping. Okay. When you're in the backcountry, camping's totally different. You're in the elements, things like that. It's
when I was younger, I've done that. Now, not so much.
And it's hard. I mean, it takes time to get accustomed to not thinking that you're going to die. And but your brain creates this fear mechanism. Okay. The fear mechanism is it protects us. But the thing is, though, when we get into that fear mode, we then start to kind of almost hallucinate in a way. So we start seeing things that, either may be there, may not be there. Maybe it amplifies our psychic senses, because everybody has psychic senses, that, we're able to then see these manifestations of, say, earth energy. And that's what we're going to call it right now, earth energy, that maybe that's always there, but you just can't see them unless you're in a certain mind state. We've lost a lot of that through technology evolution. So I think that's kind of almost what he's talking about with that. Okay, so that, and I just got confirmation on that. He goes, exactly. So and that's what we're doing. So when we get into these fear states in our minds, we manifest things. Or like you say, we start seeing things that it's almost like a survival mode type situation, because our instincts kick in. So it could be it could be a form of that. And that's kind of what he was saying with that. Does that help you?
Yeah, it does. It does.
All right. Awesome. So let's get to these questions, because we got people asking questions, and I gotta go up here. There we go. Boom. Have you and your husband ever looked for types of cryptids other than Bigfoot?
No.
Does Joe even talk about anything other than Bigfoot?
Hey, honey,
Oh,
do you ever talk about other types of cryptids? So do you mean like Dogman? And give me examples.
yeah.
Like
There you go.
is Mothman not a cryptid? Mothman's
Mhm.
just a is Mothman a thing?
It's in the
No.
cryptid book.
So the
Yeah.
answer's no.
Okay.
I don't think we're not opposed to that sort of thing, but I think where we live, we may just kind of we may just be kind of focused on Bigfoot. I don't know that in our area there's been other accounts, and then maybe we should research that. I'm open to that.
Well, I mean, Kenny, what's the number one cryptid right now? Everybody, Bigfoot's old school now. So what's everybody? You're the cryptopunkologist.
Yeah.
What's
Right
everybody looking?
Right
going
now,
on?
it's Dogman. It's the
Dogman.
new thing. It's the new thing.
Okay.
And again, I mean, you know, people have talked about Dogman, you know, forever, but it just seems like it's kind of putting Bigfoot kind of number two. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that now researching cryptids and talking about them is cool compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If you mentioned it, you were kind of looked as like a nut job. So now I think, you know, a lot of folks are coming out of the woodworks, you know, saying, hey, you know, I saw something which, you know, stood about 6 feet tall and it had canine features. So, so Dogman is really kind of, you know, really knocked Bigfoot into second place.
No, really, we
Mhm.
can't do that. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. We got to solve one before we move to the other. Come on, focus, people, focus.
Oh, you
Which
then I'm going to say this. Then stick with Bigfoot, because you start looking into the other cryptids, your mind's going to literally explode. Yeah, it's because
Well,
there's so
I
so
am gonna
much.
Google this because I've seen it researching. So before our show, I do a little bit of research and try. The funny thing is when you Google Bigfoot skeptics, you actually don't find a lot. Like you don't find people who will come out and say, I'm a skeptic, I'm not doing this. They would much rather like hang back. Does that mean like in the scientific community, they're like, I'm not even acknowledge that exists. Because I was trying to find like some sort of paper or something that somebody had written. It was like, hey, Mulgrew's my comrade, but here's my take on it. I don't agree with him. I was trying to find some sort of like controversy, like somebody who could give me some fire, and I can't find anything. I literally cannot find anything, except for there was one woman who wrote an article, but I had to pay for the book, and I haven't gotten that far yet. I was like, it was few and far between to find anyone who would come out and say, hey, listen, I'm willing to accept what you guys are saying, but here's my proof against you. And it's hard to find that. Why do you think that is?
Well, no, there's people out there, and I can behind the scenes, I can send you a couple. I'm really good friends with some of them. Some of the TV shows I was on, they put me with a skeptic because they had me be the tech guy because I was climbing trees and all this weird stuff. So, but they put me up against the skeptic because when they do a TV production, the skeptic is questioning me, being like, well, why are you doing this in the woods? And why are you setting this up in the woods? You know, and so they kind of put us up, and we're really good friends now. But no, they do have those people. The thing about you are right though, because the thing about the thing in the Bigfoot community is that we're all amateurs in the Bigfoot community. We're nobodies. We're nothing. We're out there. It's a hobby. It doesn't matter how much you want to say you're, you know, a researcher. It's a hobby. That's all it is. We're citizen scientists, and that's kind of what it comes down to. But in the same sense, when you have someone like Dr. Meldrum, when you have all these, you know, like Dr. Skykes, things like that, who just passed away recently, he was a DNA guy. At the end of the day, when you get into the scientific community, the bickering, if there's no bickering because it's a respect thing. Scientific community is not going to touch the Bigfoot subject because, once again, of scrutiny, regardless of what they think. Like, the perfect example is Kenney and I were on a show with a biologist on Black Lotus, and the one guy is a biologist, and he even says, he goes, well, I don't get into the Bigfoot thing because I'm a biologist and I don't want to be ridiculed. Because once again, you can lose your job. There's a lot to it. And
really, it goes that far. Okay.
It goes that far. It does go that
Okay.
deep. Because you got to remember, you're talking science, you're talking discovery, you're talking pseudoscience. Even though we don't look at it as pseudoscience in some ways because of the technology we deploy, trail cameras, we're looking for physical things. A lot of us look for physical things. But in the same sense, you're still in a pseudoscience thing. So these biologists and stuff don't want to touch it. All right. So I think that's why. So I think with Meldrum, he's kind of on his own island in a way, because these scientists don't really, I agree. I haven't seen the science community really come after him, but really there's nothing to come after him about in a lot of ways, only because he looks at footprints. He looks at that kind of stuff. And because he's looking at footprints and basically just going over the scientific characteristics of what that footprint and cast is, you really can't argue or debate those things because he's only stating the facts of what he's seeing. You get what I'm saying? Right. But the problem also, that the only thing I can see the scientific community coming after him for is profiting off the Bigfoot phenomena.
Okay.
Because he does profit off the Bigfoot phenomena. Yeah. But I think in the end of the day, they really don't care because like I was saying to a lot of people, think about this, Molly. If it wasn't for Bigfoot, would anybody know who Meldrum is?
No.
Right?
No.
So the only people that know who Meldrum is and give him the power is Bigfoot people. That's it. If I was to go out, do my job, and go to my job and be like, oh, do you know who Dr. Meldrum is? They're going to be like, who the fuck are you talking about? I'm like,
I would go to my job at the major university that I work at, and I would say, hey, do you know Dr. Meldrum?
Yeah, and they won't know.
And I have thought about Gary, and I don't know how to do this because I do, in full disclosure, work for a university in New York, and I do have access to anthropologists and all that. And I there's part of me that's like, I gotta figure out a way. I want to talk to one of them and I want to hear what they have to say. Even if it's just, that's ridiculous. I want to hear why they think it's ridiculous. I don't want to just hear that's ridiculous. I want to understand, like I think it's ridiculous because I haven't seen one. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm in this wishy-washy world. But they have a scientific background that can back up things, and I want to hear from them. And I'm literally really, once this whole pandemic is over, I have a lot of projects where I have to go over to campus, and I'm going to go over to campus, and I'm going to meet one of them, and I'm going to get one of them to talk to me, because I really feel like that. I feel like I want to hear from that side more. Yep. And the fact that their mom makes it suspicious to me. Let me just put it that way. I'm a little suspicious.
And Mike said it perfectly. It doesn't take science to prove. It really doesn't. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, people see these things, okay?
Right.
I've had my encounters, and like we said earlier, seeing is believing.
Right.
And for the person witnessing what they're seeing, you're never going to change their mind because seeing is believing. So that's kind of where that lays right there. Okay, regardless if you think Bigfoot is whatever. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, if you think a Bigfoot's a paranormal entity or a supernatural entity, you saw it. Doesn't matter. Flesh and blood, you saw it. Alien, you saw it. Now, when you get outside of the people who are coming forward with these claims, and then, that's when everybody starts getting dicey, because it's like, you didn't see it. You didn't witness it. Like I always say in the paranormal, I can show you EVPs all day long. I can show you shadow people on film all day long. But what I can't do is recreate a feeling you had when I caught that EVP, when I saw that shadow. The feeling that we had I can't recreate that. when me and Rachel are in the woods and she's experiencing something and she's looking at me like, can you even understand that right now? And I'm like, listen, I have no idea. And then she's a psychic too. So because she's psychic, she goes through all these emotions and all these things because she feels the environment. Only she understands what she's dealing with. Only we understand how we feel. When I saw a Bigfoot staring at me, and I still don't talk about the story because it put the fear of God into me.
But you looked at his penis.
Oh my God! Oh, here we go with this. No, but that's the thing is
Were you scared? Were you scared when that happened to you? I want to know if you were scared. You were scared.
Yes,
okay.
I was. I mean, not the first time. The first time where I saw my half encounter, as Kenney and I kind of talk about, I wasn't really scared then. But the second one, because it depends on what you believe. All I can tell you is this. Ready? I was looking at the ground, just looking for like coyote tracks and animal tracks, because I do that kind of stuff because I enjoy it. And something in my gut told me to look up. Now I looked up, and there it was, standing on the ridgeline, staring right at me. Now, was it coincidence? Something in me told me to look up. Could be. Was it mind speak, like some people talk about? Maybe. All I can tell you is facts. I'm a factual person. Something inside me told me to look up, and sure enough, I looked up. And because it was staring dead at me, and I stopped, and it was like a dog. I was like a deer in headlights, and stared right at it. Then that's where I leave.
The reason you looked up, and I do believe this, is that in our reptilian brain, we still have we may think we don't have these reactions that are from caveman days, but we really do. We haven't suppressed all of that. So you got your spidey sense tingling and told you to look up, and you looked up. Now, if I want to psychoanalyze this, how far away was Bigfoot?
I mean, it wasn't really that far away. It was on a ridge line. So, I mean, I'm awful with I'll say I don't know, 50 yards, 60 yards.
Okay. Because I was thinking a football field is really far.
No.
So it was not even halfway. So that's a pretty close. And in my mind, that's close. Were you afraid because you thought they were going to this creature was going to hurt you?
No.
Or you were afraid because you were like, holy shit, what is that?
Correct. It
startled you. Okay.
And then I was talking to Kenney. Actually, I started texting Kenney, and I was telling Kenney there was forest rangers in the woods at the same time I saw this. Now, the area that I go to, forest rangers there's no reason for forest rangers to even be there. So it's kind of random. Once again, here we are with forest rangers in the woods. Here I am stumbling across this, and then it just happened like that. And that's, again, I agree with you, and that's kind of what I said. I go by my spidey senses told me to look up, but whatever it could be, because I once again, I believe that they're the flesh and blood category, even though I've kind of changed that a little bit now. Now I just go, I don't know. But in the same sense,
you have to start me at flesh and blood. I will have to move on, but from there, to go beyond for me is too far of a leap. So I'm there.
I agree.
Go ahead.
No, I agree. But because it startled me, and I looked at, and like I told Kenney, when I was texting him, I stared this thing in the face. I stared it in its eyes. And because it became so real at that point in time.
After he checked out his junk, he stared him in his face. Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
But no, that's fine. So, oh my God, my train wreck of thought. So, I can't. So
my work here is done.
That's it. She train wrecked me. So anyway, that's the encounter. I still haven't processed it yet, but that's kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's amazing. So how long ago was that?
January.
In pandemic years.
January.
Oh, so it was just January.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need time to process that. I get it.
Yeah.
And Joseph and I are going out at the end of the month, and we're going to site A, B, or C, or D, or F. I don't remember which one. And we're doing, by the way, at this point, I would like to promote, if you'll give me a minute, if you live in New York, it's I Love My Park Day. And at the end of the month, you can go and sign up on the DEC websites and help clean up your local park. And I think it's just a really great thing. So that's what we're doing for our anniversary is we're going to site A and we're going to clean up trash and and prune things back, and we're going to give back to the park system in New York.
No, and that's awesome. I mean, that's something everybody should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, Rachel and I actually adopted a trail, so maybe that's something you guys might want to look into.
Oh.
You know, check out some of your preserves. You know, it's called a trail steward. And what you do is you adopt trails, and then you and Joe go out, and then you clean the trail, you prune the trail. That. Yeah, so you can look into those things too, because we've been doing
we bring it home. I feed it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I suckle the trail.
Yeah, clean up dog shit, you know, things like that.
Oh,
you know,
good times. Actually, I would take the dog shit and like throw it further away. Like, oh, that's the other guy's trail. Throw in the other guy's trail.
But yeah, definitely. So, I mean, those are things I agree. You know, and we talk about cleaning up all the time. So it's awesome that you guys are doing that. We need more people out there doing that. So Footer Nation, come on, give back to the woods. You know what I mean? Like, once again, we abuse the crap out of the woods and all these trails. I mean, we're out there, we're taking nature, we're enjoying nature, we're becoming one with nature, whatever you're doing. But at the end of the day, someone has to take care of all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we take that for granted because we automatically think it's just there, but that's not how it works. So, like you say, give back to your parks, give back to your forests, give back to all your, you know, great environmental areas. Because there's so much. Yeah, adopt a highway and put a toll bridge in. There you go.
Right, like Kramer. Didn't Kramer try to do that in Seinfeld or something?
Yeah, there you go. You can make some money off of that.
Oh yeah, he cut it down. He made it so it was wider lanes, so he combined them all together, and everybody crashed.
That's right.
There you go. See, Molly, have Joe set up a toll booth out on your road.
Right.
You can make money that way.
Did you want to come through our trail? I'm sorry, it's $1. So I am the daughter of a Forest Service. My father was in the Forest Service, so I am the daughter of a Forest Service person, and so I do have great respect for national parks, state parks, and everything, and we have to support them because, quite frankly, they're low on the totem pole of budget. They're low on the totem pole, and they should. I mean, in my mind, they should be at the top, but they're not. So they require volunteers to help maintain them.
Awesome.
That's all. Off my soapbox.
No. I mean, that's great, and this is stuff that needs to be talked about. So I'm so happy you guys are doing it. And Footer Nation, like I say, get out there, and it's Earth Day's coming. Get out there and do something. Even plant a tree or something, you know, or even garden. Do something. All right, Molly. So we are done. So you have any?
We are. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate you having me on. This is a great discussion. I appreciate it a lot.
No, it's awesome. So come on, give us your plugs. Yeah, it was really good. So give us your plugs and let everybody know where they can find you at.
Oh, so and then Mike has been kind enough in the comments to say the Western New York Bigfoot Research Organization. Make sure you tune in Wednesday nights at 7:00 to the Joe and Molly show. I'm sorry, was it the Molly and Joe show? I feel like it should be the Molly and Joe show, but I think it's the Joe and Molly show. And come on, we do a StreamYard. You can put in comments. If you want to challenge me, I accept the challenge. Woo, throw down the gauntlet. Put it, there's the Facebook page. Thank you a lot. And that's it. Buy a mug.
Awesome. Buy a mug.
Buy a mug.
Look at all these fans. Oh my goodness. They love you, Queen Molly. They love you.
And I love Loretta. I just want to give a shout out to Loretta and Mike because I and William. I know Loretta, Mike, and William. They're frequenters, and I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Loretta.
Awesome. I'm just giving you all your love because you deserve all the love.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Angela. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, Footer Nation.
Oh, my husband just yelled something from the back room. It was probably negative. Let's just ignore him. Go ahead.
Well, it's because his show was supposed to start 7 minutes ago. So 8 minutes ago now.
So you just stole his thunder. You just stole his thunder.
Oh, how dare I?
All right, Footer Nation. Well, we've now come to the end of our season. I mean, Kenny and I have been at this for what, like 2-3 years now, right, Kenny? Like
a couple of years now, yeah.
For me, years now. Yeah. So it's like, you know what? I mean, we love you all. We do. We thank you guys so much for all your support. I mean, like I say, we try to do the best we can. We love that, you know, talking to everybody. We love the chat room, you know, and the main thing that we're here for is getting you answers of some sort, whatever the hell the answer is. But, you know, doing the work and coming together in a positive community That's the thing that we always preach is positive community. I will be here and there doing PX updates and Project X updates throughout the year, okay? So this is my research season now. Kenney and I will be now slowly getting back into the woods, so we won't have time to do all the podcast shows anymore. I will be doing my hiking podcast show with my daughter. So you guys know McKenna. She roasts me the whole entire show, so everybody loves it.
Yeah.
But we will be doing educational stuff like that. But as far, like I say, we'll be back in the fall. And I'm hoping when we come back, we'll have some awesome stuff to bring to the table, some more information. Sneak peek of what I'm doing this summer. Communication still. I have a brand new experiment that I've been talking to other bigwigs. Now, when I say bigwigs, top researchers in the Bigfoot community. These people are big people. And I've come together with them and I'm doing experiments that they've come up with. I'm gaining data for them and gaining data for us. It's super awesome. It's going to be a great project, and I'm hoping the results that come out of here, by the time we're done with it, we can teach a Sasquatch how to communicate with us, know different things, and understand what we're doing. If we can do that, that will be an amazing step. Okay? So I'm still doing communication, and that's the goal. As always, friends, keep it squatchy. We'll see you out on the trail. Deuces, everyone.
Bye.